You're listening to eCommerce Fastlane, episode 13.
Welcome to eCommerce Fastlane, the podcast show to help you build, launch, grow, and scale a wildly successful e-commerce company. Listen to real conversations with proven practical strategies and success stories. Learn how to generate more traffic, more sales, more profit, and customer lifetime value for your Shopify store. And now, your host and e-commerce entrepreneur, Steve Hutt.
Hey there, it's Steve, and welcome back to the eCommerce Fastlane podcast. Now, this is your first time listening. This is an e-commerce show where we have honest and transparent conversations about building and thriving online with your store powered by Shopify or Shopify Plus. Now, new episodes are available each week with your favorite podcast player through iTunes and Stitcher and Google Play, Spotify, or you can sign up online at ecommercefastlane.com to be notified when new shows are being released. Now, on today's episode, I sat down and had a chat with Chad Rubin, who is the co-founder and CEO of Skubana. And it's a platform that kind of unifies your e-commerce operations. And kind of as he refers to it, it's kind of the platform acts as a central nervous system kind of for your Shopify store's operation. And, he discusses that, fragmented solutions have kind of ruled, the commerce landscape for so long, actually. And, many Shopify store owners have just come to accept the fact that you got to stitch together lots of different software, public and private apps, and, and a lot of times running kind of some complicated workflows, and kind of viewing inconsistent data is just kind of just part of doing business in e-commerce. But, the mission with Skubana is kind of to shatter these notions and kind of, I guess, provide Shopify store owners with something that they've never experienced before. It's really like a central platform with a single source of truth for all your data and all of your operations. And, it unifies all the tools you need to run your business, and it automates all repetitive tasks and even thinks about profitability and forecasting and demand planning. Like you can connect and import your orders from over 20 different channels and marketplaces and retailers. Imagine you can truly be multi-channel, with kind of one unified platform. And, you can sell and manage on eBay and Amazon and Walmart, Jet.com, QVC, Nordstrom, Costco, Target, Best Buy, Bed Bath & Beyond, Home Depot, and there's so many more that they connect to. And, you can print labels from all the major carriers, or you can automatically route your orders, to third-party fulfillment centers for kind of one centralized place. You can view, you can manage, you can synchronize your inventory across all of your sales channels, all of your warehouses, 3PLs, drop shippers, Amazon, FBA distribution centers. It's absolutely insane what this solution has accomplished. So let's jump in and talk to Chad Rubin.
Thank you for having me, Steve. Appreciate it.
Oh, my pleasure. So tell me a bit about you. And I know about your entrepreneurial journey, but the listeners may not know. So can you tell me kind of that story kind of leading up to, and it's probably a big story, I know, but leading up to Skubana?
I'll give you the abridged version. I've been
you.
in e-commerce for over 10 years. So it's been a decade, going back to when Al Gore invented the internet.
Yeah.
Actually, so I grew up, my parents actually had a vacuum store. So I don't know when the last time you've ever been to a vacuum store was, but I grew up struggling, seeing my parents struggle and struggling to pay bills, et cetera. And so I never wanted to be in the vacuum business. I never wanted to be in the retail business. And I was a first generation college grad. I went to UMass Amherst and I studied finance because that was really where my family was deficient. So I graduated from UMass and I went to Wall Street and I started covering internet stocks, and I started seeing what was happening in the e-commerce world and just the growth that was happening. Mm-hmm. And so my parents had this vacuum store, they were struggling, and I was like, hey, Mom, Dad, I'll take you guys on the internet. So I actually built them a store initially on like Microsoft front page. And then I used a different shopping cart platform. I don't know if I can mention others here.
Oh, sure. Why not?
I eventually, so I moved from it, but we went to Volusion. Mm-hmm. And then I was like, okay, well, you know what? I don't really want to be a reseller forever. And this is before direct to consumer was really being really cool and in and sexy. And I was like, okay, the way to win right now is to cut out the middleman and go direct. So I started a site called Crucial Vacuum because vacuum parts are crucial. And I was like, I made my first vacuum filter, brought it in from overseas, sold direct. It went well. So one filter led to cartons, led to LTL shipments, led to, we're doing about 100 containers a year right now.
Wow.
So then I was selling on my own site. I was selling eBay. Then I started moving into Amazon. Now I'm on 20 different channels. I'm fully omnipresent. And I needed to figure out, well, how am I going to manage this process? What's the best way to manage this process? So I started trying to work with other software companies that were out there already. And they didn't build it from a seller's perspective. I had a lot of failed implementations. Some of these deals were like percentage of revenue deals, and it was like half baked. I needed to essentially cobble together all of these softwares, at least 5 or 10 of them. This is BS before Skubana. I needed to cobble them together, and then I was like, why does it have to be this way? So then long story short, I tried to figure out someone in India to make the software. That didn't work. I lost a lot of money there. And then one of my friends from college, from UMass, met my co-founder, DJ, on the tennis court. So it's so crazy how like randomly you just meet people and they just join you on your journey.
Serendipity, eh?
Totally. So he met and he came to my warehouse, and that's a whole nother long story, but he came and he saw, and then we conquered. And I mean, there's a lot more to this story, but right, he came to my warehouse and he's like, oh my God, Chad Rubin, you're a top 500 seller. I can't wait to see all the robots and all the cranes and all the moving pieces in your warehouse. And he comes and he's like, what? It's all manual? What? And you don't have any SKUs? What's going on? So then we started building Skubana after he saw all what was happening, right? All these failed implementations, when you type in multi-channel inventory management onto Google, all of these sites come up, all these different sites, and they all claim to do the same thing, and you try to cut through the noise. And so I showed him each of these companies and how they were failed implementations and why, and we solved for those issues.
Mm-hmm. It kind of reminds me, because when I have strategic calls with clients and merchants and whatnot, and that's one of the topics that come up, this whole kind of multi-channel, omni-channel kind of world, and they feel that the way to connect to all of these is, through separate implementation, through separate apps or separate marketing platforms and kind of whatever they're doing. And you're right, to a certain degree, there's quite a bit of cobbling going on, and not everything talks to each other. And then there's just the technology and the tech stack can get quite complicated. Looking at people's admins, I'm really, really shocked how they're able to make things work.
Yeah. The more points of connection is the more points of failure. And I would say the biggest thing is really when you use all these separate disparate solutions or apps or tools, you have no unification of intelligence to make decisions in your business.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So you mentioned that you originally had like a version 1, an MVP that you kind of built. Is that true?
Yeah. So essentially, instead of using a separate shipping software and a separate inventory software, a separate PO software, we built it all in one. But we started off with what people would say is a minimum viable product, but for us, it was a massive viable product. We just, everything under the sun, we put shipping together with inventory for the first time ever.
Right.
So we started, that was about 4 years ago now.
Wow. And here we are.
And so for us, our objective is to really be I'm going to give props to Shopify, right? So Shopify did something to Magento, which is what we're looking to do to NetSuite.
Right.
So all this innovation has happened on the front end, but there's been no innovation happening on the back end.
Right. So we were chatting offline kind of just before this recording, and we were mentioning about the couple stores that you currently are running, and and there are a couple 7-figure businesses kind of all running at the same time. Can you kind of share that kind of journey and why you're doing that? Because you have a software company too now.
Yeah. So. Yes. So I mean, look, I'm all about solving problems, right. And when I see one, I'm always that's where I want to tackle it. So for the vacuum, first of all, we started off in vacuums, and right. I think in hindsight, we should have picked a different name because we didn't realize that we would disrupt the vacuum industry so quickly. So my first site, I guess it was on Volusion, then we moved to Magento, then naturally we're now on Shopify. And so that progression And the migration also, by the way, was a lot of headaches, and we can talk about those headaches as well if you'd like. But for me, it was okay. Let's solve the vacuum industry. Okay, I'm not so passionate about vacuums. What am I passionate about? Well, I love coffee. So I was like, okay, well, why don't we make vacuum filters? Why don't we make coffee filters? It's not so far off. And then we started moving into every single home appliance part for the home. That's popular. And so our new brand now is called Think Crucial, THINK. Yeah, thinkcrucial.com. And it's great. I mean, it's one brand that houses everything that we sell.
So obviously the burning question that opens up now is, so how do you run your e-commerce business now? Apparently you have like one full-time employee, I hear.
Yes, one full-time employee. So the first thing that I would say at our prime in terms of the amount of full-time employees, I think there's a little bit of disjointedness. Like when you go to a cocktail party and you're like, oh, you're an entrepreneur. How many employees do you have? That's always like the first question. Where people kind of measure that as a measure of success.
Right.
And that's not really it. I have one employee, but I love to find automation and technology to automate low-value, repetitive, mundane tasks. And then I find outsourced remote people to fill in those blanks and to fill in my weaknesses and my employees' weaknesses, because we can't be good at everything.
Right. And so how did you find these employees?
So, well, first of all, my COO, Kristen, she's been with us, I want to say 6 years now, since the beginning. Like, she was a graphic designer that just was raw talent, and we've cultivated her into running a team of remote people. So first thing we did was automate, and then we found outsourced employees. And we use like Upwork typically to find a lot of different freelancers to fill in the gaps of what we need. Right. We use Basecamp as a project management software to manage these teams. So customer support, it could be content, it could be blogging, it could be SEO, it could be advertising, but we split it up into teams onto Basecamp. And then for like forecasting and demand planning, we use all the automation side of Skubana. So Skubana, for example, just to give you an example, we will automatically create you a purchase order awaiting approval. So based on all the channels that you sell on, all the velocity across all your channels, Amazon, Shopify, eBay, Sears, Jet, Walmart, Wayfair, I can keep going on, right? Home Depot. Yeah. Across all these channels, you take all the velocity, and instead of having a team go and look at all your SKUs and figure out how many you need to order, when they need to order them, with what vendor, at what cost, we will automatically do that for you. So it's a 24/7, 365 employee that not only replaces one employee, but teams of people doing this.
Mm-hmm. And so it sounds like it's a fairly simple workflow then to kind of think about getting on these channels, connecting your Shopify store, obviously to Skubana, and then kind of walk me through what happens at that point. You make decisions on these channels, your products are pushed out to these channels, and then orders, I guess, are generated on those channels. And does it all filter itself back in through Skubana?
Yeah, so the orders, in e-commerce, there's really 5 ways to fulfill. You can print a shipping label in your own warehouse, you can drop ship, you can use a 3PL, you can use multi-channel fulfillment, which is essentially using Amazon as a 3PL, and then there's also FBA. So any way you fulfill, you can set up all these, we call them order bots on the back end, that automate fulfillment for you. So it takes the thinking out of fulfillment, and so all the routing happens, and then we do all the inventory juggling with different rules and forecasting rules, the purchase orders, and then most importantly, when you print a shipping label, we will actually take that shipping cost, which typically in e-commerce is 17% of your cost, well, anywhere from 10 to 17%, and we essentially associate that with every single SKU in the system. So now you can see your profit per SKU, per channel across your entire business.
What about the international part of it? I mean, it's on a lot of people's radars right now. So if we're on these channels and we're selling internationally, so outside of the US, does Skubana kind of handle any of the potential tax and liability kind of shipping internationally, or is that something that's done separately through a different solution?
So we can print shipping labels and we can talk to an international 3PL. That's not an issue. We don't connect to, say, like Alibaba, at least right now. Right. We're US focused. If you sell in other countries, you can fulfill in the US for those countries. but we haven't translated our software. Is that your question? Or are you talking about like tax implications like that?
Yeah, I was always because I think that's on a lot of people's mind about this whole kind of global kind of internationalization. I feel people are getting. I have a lot of merchants now that are asking for a Canadian site and a UK site and an Australian site, and they feel that there's going to be some tax implications and or especially if it's fulfilled domestically to overseas, they're kind of worried about, hey, am I being tax compliant with duty and taxes for the recipient, who pays, labeling, all that kind of fun stuff. And I thought I'd throw the idea out there if you knew much about it.
So we do support international shipping. When it comes to like VAT, we'll calculate like what you shipped overseas, but it's important, like let's just say you're selling into England, the HRMC, I believe it's called, or the HMRC,
right?
That you file with them. So you'd hire like an accountant to do that, to do those filings.
And I think too, there, through Avalara or through TaxJar and stuff like that, I think there's ways of looking at every single order and destination, country, and origin, and I think actually even in Shopify in the cart itself, I admit there's even a lot of free solutions out there right now that I know will populate the appropriate duty and tax in the cart level, and then you're collecting that money from the end consumer. And then from there, the fulfillment part is kind of looks like maybe either they do it themselves, like you said, or 3PL or through Skubana, and out it goes. And then you have a proper audit flow, I guess, to know who gets what money and where. A lot of times it goes to the carrier, to be quite honest with you, because you give them all the money, including the cost of shipping, and then it gets distributed accordingly.
Got it.
So with these two stores that you have, I always like to ask, this is a fun question, but I'm in a unique position working inside Shopify, but I get to see kind of what successful brands and different merchants that I manage, kind of what they're using for apps. And I get to see a kind of a holistic view of lots of different merchants. And so do you have like any kind of a top list of apps that you feel have kind of impacted the success of the couple brands that you have right now?
Sure. So we have I'll split up the world into two. There's productivity apps, right? Like Skubana. I mentioned Basecamp already on project management. I use Boomerang for a zero inbox.
Okay.
I use another Chrome extension called a Text Expander.
Oh yeah, definitely we use that.
Okay, cool. And then, I can keep going on that list. And then I use also a lot of Shopify apps for my e-commerce store that I plug in to help us make the platform stronger. So like Bold Brain, Bold Upsell, which is great because it actually does discovery. It sees what other people are buying with other products and does that bundling for you algorithmically. Returnly is great for return processing and to automate returns. I use Yapo for reviews. Obviously, Skubana, which is an app in the Shopify app ecosystem, Klaviyo for email automation, and then Signified for like fraud. They have like a fraud score that prevents us from shipping out fraudulent orders. So that's like a really solid list of ones that I'm using, but I have a lot more. Add 20 more to that list.
Yeah, because it reminds me some of the those are great recommendations, and a lot I've actually interviewed. So if you those that are listening to the show now if you head back over to I guess my archive list of previous episodes, you'll see that I have interviewed Bold Brain for sure, and Returnly and Yapo is there. Klaviyo was just done recently, and now you. So that's good.
Awesome.
I do recommend. There's a couple others that on top of mind that I'm thinking now that we're chatting about this. Loyalty and rewards. Are there any top of mind for you?
Well, so interestingly enough, Crucial since it's a commodity, there's not a whole lot of rewards that could happen, and I would love to be disproved on it.
Right.
For me, it hasn't been the most important, but I know that there's Smile on Shopify, right?
Right. Yep. Smile. Yeah.
And which other one did you recommend?
Well, the two others that come to mind, Swell Rewards is quite popular, and Loyalty Lion. So these are kind of the biggies that I tend to recommend, and at least tell a merchant to kind of at least vet them and at least come to the table and learn about kind of what they do. They all have a little unique way of doing it. I also think a lot about search. I think search is really important. Unfortunately, Shopify search functionality, as functional as it is, I think it requires a little more massaging to really make it great. And I think there's a lot of kind of search connections out there that really these app developers, and they really have doubled down. And one I recommend a lot is Instant Search Plus. Has been very successful for a lot of people that I'm kind of connected to in my own merchants. So that was one that is interesting.
And have you ever heard of Cleveland? Like, we've been actually analyzing, because we actually noticed that perhaps we can get more conversions through search, and we're missing out on that opportunity right now. So we've been looking at the one that you had recommended, and Clevu, I think it's called.
Yeah, Clevu, yes. Yeah, definitely. They're a technology partner with Shopify Plus, and yeah, I think they're an English brand, I believe. But yeah, very, very, very great product.
Cool. Yeah. So we're in the process of analyzing that right now. So good call.
And then I guess the other one that I find interesting too is the analytics part. Now you have some analytics obviously built into Skubana. Is that correct?
Yes, of course.
Okay. And then so, and that's more the performance of the store itself as far as sell through and kind of forecasting and that sort of analytics. How does is there connections to anything going on with the whole customer's journey kind of leading up to buying through like analytics and webmaster tools and these sorts of things? Or is that a separate kind of thing?
Skubana is everything after the checkout. So once you check out on Shopify or a marketplace like Amazon or eBay or Rakuten or Newegg, that order flows into our software, and that's really where the calculations really start to begin.
Right.
So, I mean, I would say the holy grail of what we've built is the SKU profitability, which is your profit per SKU per channel. But we have all these other reports. We have variability forecasting. We'll have lifetime value of your client. What percentage of your clients are one-time buyers versus two-time buyers versus three-time buyers across every channel. Inventory values. I mean, there's like 60 different analytics reports to choose from.
All right. Well, that's awesome. So it sounds like what we need to do then, maybe after this episode or a little bit later, but we should probably publish something in the show notes, maybe going through a demo so people can see, the power of what Skubana can actually do. And I know it's a massive solution, but I guess you could choose to turn on certain things as required and as your business begins to scale and as you add on new channels, and I guess you get to learn more about how to implement the solution.
Yeah, I mean, it's so important to pick a platform that can grow with you. Mm-hmm. When the idea is you're going to grow over time. You don't want to keep re-platforming and moving because that's just disruptive to your business. So it's such an important decision to think about what your ops platform is going to be, and don't make a move that's going to limit your business and be the sort of ceiling to your growth.
Right. Yeah, it's a very good point. So we'll make a point of recording something. So if you're listening to this now, if you head back over to the website, to eCommerce Fastlane, to this show notes, there'll be a video there that we can have a demo. So we are nearing the end of the show. Do you have any kind of closing comments and things that you'd like to kind of share with the listeners?
Well, we talked about how am I running two businesses. Mm-hmm. So I would say, like, number one is if you're in the process of becoming an entrepreneur or launching your own product, it would probably be solve a problem.
Right.
Pick an angle and choose to innovate on the angle and solve a problem. If you're already running an e-commerce business, there's obviously the business that you're in and the business that you're becoming. And that definitely, I mean, Crucial is a very, very different business a couple of years ago than it is now. And the same thing for Skubana, by the way. Right. Both very, very different businesses, but it's important to choose technology that's going to grow with your business and evolve with it and not limit your growth. Right. What else can I share with your audience here? Automation is a big part of my life, and picking technology it becomes a competitive advantage, in my opinion. Like, it's super easy to copy a product or rip it off, but it's really, really hard to actually copy a system. It becomes a moat. So I would say that you want to be a systems thinker in e-commerce right now for your business and your brand. And one way to do that is to build a system, like to really build a system on the back end where your operations is automated and it's a no thinking process.
Right. Yeah, thank you. That's great. That's great details. I really appreciate that. I think, at the end of the day, I mean, like we said before, Skubana is a great solution for, a certain kind of, I guess, wherever the merchant is in their journey. It's interesting that when you are ready to find a solution to kind of help you grow and expand, as you said, in the omni-channel kind of world, getting out there in all these channels, but then being able to grow and expand as the business grows. I think it's fabulous to kind of at least give Skubana a shot. I think step number one would be literally to go to the App Store, I think, is the first thing from within the Shopify, and just type the word Skubana, download the app, attach it to your store, and take a look at the platform. I believe there's a trial that's already, as part of that kind of onboarding process. And I know you mentioned that there was going to be a discount available for those that kind of have made the decision to pull the plug, to start up and use this solution.
Well, to pull the plug on their other software, right?
Yeah, pull the plug on the
or
other
if they
software.
Have no software.
You got it. And you have been very generous to offer a 20% discount for 1 year for those that use the coupon code FASTLANE. So if you sign up, I would at least get the trial, at least try it, take a look at the admin, and figure out how you can connect. I'm sure there's a lot of help docs and things like that that can kind of walk you through the process of kind of getting it all ready. In
terms of getting set up, I just want to chime in.
Mm-hmm.
So Skubana is definitely like it's for advanced merchants and brands.
Right. Mm-hmm. So
I would highly suggest, number one, you want to email me the coupon code. You can email me at chad@skubana.com, and we can work together directly. And then when it comes to actually set up, you get actually handheld through the entire setup process. Like, you'll never be alone in the setup process from like the second that you sign on with us to, like when you sign on with us, that's when you become a customer, right? Like, the deal begins when you're continuing to use our software. And so we have an entire team in-house in New York that'll facilitate you getting set up and making sure that you're happy.
Awesome. I love that. I love the hand holding at the beginning. I think sometimes it can be overwhelming with a new piece of software, having to learn it. And it's nice that they have like kind of almost like professional services group of people that are success managers, so to speak, that are able to kind of help with the onboarding process.
Yeah, totally.
So, well, Chad, thank you so much for coming on the show today. I really appreciate it. I know you're busy, and I really appreciate you sharing kind of your background in e-commerce and kind of leading, the odd failure here and there, but then finally iterating with a co-founder on the tennis court. Now we have Skubana. It's fantastic.
Thank you so much. I'm very grateful to be on.
All right, take care. Well, I hope you enjoyed my conversation today with Chad from Skubana. The platform certainly is for more advanced or expanding and evolving type brands. And if that's you, then sign up for the free trial and then email chad@skubana.com and use that FASTLANE coupon code and save yourself 20% off for the next year. So it's a great little offer. So if you're enjoying the eCommerce Fastlane podcast, I would be so grateful if you could take 5 minutes and download and subscribe and then rate and review the show. It's kind of one of the best ways that you can kind of show your appreciation for the continued production of the show. And it really helps for the discoverability of the show in iTunes. And thanks again for being a supporter. And if you tune in next week, my guest is going to be Matt Goodman from Okendo. And we discuss kind of the huge benefits that their company has entering the kind of product reviews and user-generated content market, kind of versus the other competitors that are in the same industry. So if you're using a product review app or not, you will certainly learn a lot from this show. Well, thanks again for taking time out of your busy day today and listening to the show. I truly appreciate you and your entrepreneurial journey with commerce powered by Shopify. Until then, enjoy the rest of your week and take care.